Right. So, hey everyone, I've snuck in to the recording setup of FMT Pod. I'm determined that I'm going to be able to host one of these. And I thought if I came in early and sat in the hosting chairs, they won't get rid of me. And if I do a cold open and welcome everybody into the pod, they'll just have to let me kind of do it, won't they, really? So, let's see if we can do this, shall we? Right. What does he say? He goes, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am your host, the United.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I
No.
was just waiting for you, Jeb.
Bad Kev. Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I'm your host, Jeb and joining me this week, I've got the United City FM. Kev, how are we?
Hello. Yeah, good, mate. Good. I'm really delighted to be sitting in my spot. It feels much more comfortable over here, obviously. And we both got the memo about hat colour choices.
I noticed
that's
this.
a really fantastic thing as well. So yeah, good to see you, buddy. How's things with you this week?
Yeah, not too bad. Lots of busy things happening with work and various other things. I'm supposed to have a week off this week, but I think I worked more this week than I have in previous weeks. So I don't, you know how that one works? I don't understand it. Also, I'm apparently Mr. 3% because nobody liked my team from last week, which is just a disgrace.
They were scared of them. They were scared of them. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations on winning that. 48% of the vote with your wonderful team.
My great team. Yep, Callum's mammoth didn't quite get him the victory in the end, so who knew? But yeah, for anybody that's just joining us this week and wasn't here last week, we put teams of 6 together last week for various reasons. Go back and listen to it if you haven't already. And then we put a poll out on Twitter to ask your opinion on which team you thought was good. And yeah, Jeb did really, really well. Well done, Jeb.
All right.
They were just really angry people that you chose, and everybody was scared off of them, I think.
Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable. We would have scored loads of goals all then. There would have been no fights and no suspensions or anything. It would have been absolutely fine. So I got 1% of the vote or whatever it was. Or one vote. Whoever that one vote was, thank you. Thank you.
We need words, whoever that one person was.
I'll send you the £5 in the post. Yes. So, no Callum this week. Callum's on holiday again.
Yep.
He seems to have lots of holidays up in the Lake District this weekend. And then no Rich, unfortunately. He had a family emergency he had to go out to this weekend. So
yeah, all the best to him and the family. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been busy-ish with carrying on with our save, so I think it's going to really catch up on the save update. We'll start with yourself, Kev. I'll do a little update on Morecambe, and then we'll chat about the network save because we had a really big season 5, and somebody did really, really well.
Somebody did,
and they're not sat here. Yeah, so might have given away who that was. But anyway, Stoke, Thierry Henry, and friends.
Yes, it feels like ages since I did an update, which is really weird. It's been a few weeks. And the last time I was updating, we were partway through a season where I discovered that Stoke were down in League One and I had to try and get them back up to the Championship, basically. We were predicted like a second, third place finish in that season. So you were kind of hoping that we would do something. In terms of what I did to bring players in, yes, I brought Thierry Henry into the club. Now, those that were around at the time will remember this is not the French Thierry Henry. This is the Brazilian youngster Thierry Henry that's a target forward. So in he came. I brought in Ashley Phillips at the back. I brought Nathaniel Phillips as backup. There was a few others that I brought into that season. And because it was quite a while ago and we have moved on quite a bit since then, I will simply tell you, we got promoted, and we got it in the last couple of days of the season. We were fighting, I think it was with West Brom primarily. And in the last couple of fixtures of the season, we managed to get to that top spot. And so we did get promoted back to the Championship first time of asking, which was really, really cool. But of course, now you get to that situation where you found them in the depths, you rearranged them a little bit. We spent a bit of money, but we made a bit of money because there were lots of relegation release clauses in that League One season. So we were financially pretty solid. So now was the time to go all out and see what we could do in the Championship. And we started off Predicted 15th, I think it was, in the Championship. So you can see where we had sort of dropped to, having just been a League One team. And again, I spent a bit of money. I spent about £20 million on good reinforcements, having spent 45 the season before. So it was a fairly hefty amount of money spent. And we only bought about 5 million in. But I upgraded the squad. Do you remember in the network save, Jeb, I bought a certain goalkeeper for Fulham for about £60 million plus?
No, I've never mentioned it. Never mentioned.
No, never mentioned
Gavin,
it.
Wasn't
it? Gavin Bazunu from Southampton. I bought him in the network save for Fulham for about 60-something million pound. I can't even remember how it was. I bought him again, Jeb. This time for Championship Stoke for 800k. I don't know how this works, but he's reasonably good. He's not the best version I've ever seen, but he's pretty good. But there is a slight difference in there, isn't there? So in comes Gavin. In came Malo Gusto from Chelsea as well for 4.3. He was just down the pecking order at Chelsea and not really doing very well. And the third player I'll tell you about at the beginning of my championship season, the first championship season, was we found a new gen that I felt happy to rename Huge Underpants.
Oh, wow.
We are on Huge Underpants the third. Anybody that knows my streams will know that Huge Underpants became a bit of a legendary renamed new gen regen a couple of seasons ago, a couple of FMs ago. And so every big save that I do now has a version of Huge Underpants in it somewhere where I feel like there's a striker worth renaming. And we found one. He's a 20-year-old currently, a season or so on from where we got him in. He's a 20-year-old Spanish guy. And he's doing all right for me, which is lovely. So he came into the club. Predicted 15th. I really, really was expecting to hopefully get into the top 12 and get into that top half of the table if I could in that first season and give us something to work on. We did a bit better than that. I mean, you know, for a lot of the season, we were sitting in a playoff spot, and I thought that would be pretty spectacular. We flirted with that sort of second place automatic promotion spot occasionally, but sat in third for quite a lot of it. Then at the very back end of the season, sitting in about third, but very close to, I think it was Middlesbrough and then Fulham at the top of the table. We played Middlesbrough and did pretty well against them and took some stuff off, points off of them. And then Fulham had an absolute nightmare. Their running, they just absolutely capitulated. And we only won and won the championship. For goodness sake, I won the championship, back-to-back promotions from League One, where we were overpowered for League One. I do see that, but even so, it was good to get up. We were not overpowered for the championship, to my mind, at all. 15th place was the prediction. That kept changing and moving up a little bit as the season progressed. But I would have taken a playoff spot perfectly happily and gone into the lottery of a playoff at that point, because I thought we were, you know, at that kind of level, if not a little bit lower. But we won the championship and back-to-back promotions happened. Now, that is amazing. And then you realize you have to cope with the Premier League, and the season ago, that's a little bit tricky. So again, I had to reimagine the squad a little bit. There was a couple of loanees that I had in from a couple of the big teams that went back, and I couldn't get them back in again. We lost my left fullback, Ian Munoz, who's now 33. It's a bit weird. 33, he decided he was really, really homesick all of a sudden and wanted to go back to Spain. Okay, you'd think, you know, he'd been in England for a decade or whatever it was. You'd think he'd be all right, but apparently not. So he went back for about £6 million. And that's pretty much what I made in the transfer market. There were a few players that were just not good enough for the Premier League, so I let them go at the end of their contracts. There were a couple of other bits and pieces that happened, but we spent £48 million out of my £36 million budget or whatever it was. So we got...
It's not like you, Kev.
You know, the never. I know, right? I'm not renowned for overspending in these situations at all these days off the network save. But yeah, £48 million. We bought in some really, really good squad rotating players to help boost the bench up a little bit, and a couple that moved into our first team to move a couple of those down onto the bench as well. So there was a guy that we renamed in my League One campaign. We loaned him in from Man United. We called him Lou Scannon. So Lou Scannon was in my save in League One, but he was a really good youngster and he's developed a bit since then, and he was still listed for loan. So I managed to get him back in as a backup central defender. The main bit of business that we did was for Mohamed Diamonde. Now, he starts at one of the Danish clubs, I think it is. Let me just go and check that. He's at Nordsjælland at the beginning of the game. Good central midfielder, creative influence, great vision, great passing, etc. And he was an upgrade on what I've been using in my central midfield. So he came in for about £11 million, just a little bit more on instalments and payments where necessary. And then we had to reinvent that left fullback position. So I bought in Santiago Montiel. For anybody that knows him, he's about 29 now. He spent most of his time, he's spent all of his career in Argentina up to this point, but he's been around the block a little bit. Came in as my first choice. As we speak, we are, I think, let me just check in game. We are 10 games into the Premier League season and he's played one for me because he's been injured for 3 months at the beginning of the season once I bought him because FM.
Yep.
So unfortunately, he hasn't played. We bought also Daniel Svensson, just an okay Swedish fullback that I've had before, I believe, on a couple of my other saves as we've gone through on Twitch. So, yeah, he's come in as the backup fullback, and ultimately he's had to play 8 of the games. He's not doing great. I want Montiel back, and we're just about to get him back, so that should help. Couple of other youngsters in and around the squad, but it's all still based on my 4-4-2 and the 3 versions of it. I've got a balanced attacking and defensive version of the 4-4-2 leading into the 4-2-2-2, or however you determine these to be. Slight shape differences, but basically it remains the same. We're doing about as predicted, if I'm honest. It's really hard when you are predicted 19th and you start reasonably well and hit the heady heights of like 14th. And then you have a run of fixtures that goes Man United, Everton, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham. It's not great, is it? It's not easy. And we went on a losing streak of about 4 or 5 games before we drew the last match against Sunderland. We've got a couple more tricky games to go. And then we've got a really good run of fixtures in terms of teams in and around us. And hopefully we can pick up some points. But at the moment, we are predicted 19th. One up from Bristol City in 20th, and we sit in 19th, 1 point ahead of Bristol City in 20th. I think it's going to be a really long season. If I could take 17th at this point, then I would absolutely snap your hand off for it, because I think it's going to be a really tricky season. If we can get past the next couple of games, Liverpool, Tottenham, then we've got a run of Fulham, Palace, Brentford, Bristol City, Villa, Wolves, Southampton, that kind of team that hopefully we can begin to pick up a few points. But of course, morale has been dampened somewhat. I'm concerned that in terms of club vision and all that kind of stuff, the board, who were delighted with me at the back end of last season getting up early, is now sitting on a C+. And we're sitting where we're predicted to finish in the season. So I don't think I'm going to survive this season, even with the circumstance I'm in, if I get relegated potentially. And it could well be that I get relegated, because it's really, really hard to get a mostly Championship, slightly League One squad to play in the Premier League. But we're there. I think my manager is also ahead of schedule. For those who don't remember, I started with no coaching badges and Sunday League experience. I'm now studying for my Continental B license. I think it is. That's the one that I'm currently on. But it only means that I'm like a 3-star manager. with like 11s and 12s in key attributes and stuff across where I am. So if I had not bought Stoke City up, I was not ready to go into the Premier League myself as a manager, even really. And I feel like if I got relegated with Stoke and they sacked me, I would have to take a downward step potentially and keep working towards those processes a little bit. What I'd really love to do before they sack me, and if I can keep in this job for the next season, is if one of those big Scottish jobs came up, maybe that would be a good, interesting step potentially for a little while. We'll see what happens. But at the moment, I'm with Stoke. We're sitting in 19th, 10 matches gone. I'm already out of the League Cup, which I don't really mind, if I'm honest, because it's just more games for a squad that are going to struggle. So, yeah, that's where I am. It's been a really interesting ride. I mean, that season in the Championship was ridiculous. The season in League One was expected, but that Championship season, I did not expect it. And my team just played great. And it was just, you could sit and watch them do it. And it was magnificent. The one thing that I would say, moving into the Premier League and watching my team play now, they've all forgotten how to do it. It's those simple things. It frustrates the life out of me that last season my central defender could pick up the ball, go, oh, look, 5 yards away from me, there's a midfielder. I'll pass it to him. And now he goes, oh, look, 5 yards away from me, there's a midfielder. I'll pass in the other direction and give it to their striker who can then score a goal. Drives me nuts. Happened 2 or 3 times in last stream alone. And they've just completely forgotten how to kick a football. I feel like it's that random thing of, instead of the opposition being brilliant and beat you, your team forget how to do stuff and it offers them opportunities and they beat you, if that makes sense. And I would prefer it to be the other way around a little bit more. I think the balance in that isn't quite right for me. But yeah, we're predicted 19th. We're sitting there. It may be that that's where we end. But in a week or so from now, once I've got through the next couple of fixtures, it might look different. And if I can just claw my way out of that relegation zone, I will be ecstatically happy. And then we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, definitely. So going for those big Scottish jobs. So Livingston, St Mirren, all those big boys. Yeah.
So. Absolutely. You know, just those well recognizable names that are, yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if the likes of Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts, Rangers, Celtic, any of those sorts of clubs come up, I'd be interested at least.
Yeah,
it'd be a different challenge, you know. But even that, at the point where I'm at, would I get one of those jobs? I don't know, because it still feels like I should be in the Championship with Stoke, really. Ultimately. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, a really fun one. And then the last 2 streams have just reminded me how difficult the Premier League is when you are not ready for the Premier League. And we'll see what happens.
Has the board been backing you as well? So have they been upgrading training facilities as you've gone up? I guess Stokes are all right, actually.
Yeah, they were in a very good position when I took over, in terms of all of their facilities. So they haven't had to do too much. They haven't really been particularly forthcoming financially, I wouldn't say, really. I feel like I made them quite a bit of money in the first season in League One because there were so many release clauses and other bits and pieces because they got relegated. So we made quite a bit of money at that point. And that means that ultimately, in the last couple of seasons, we've spent a bit of that. But I feel like we could have eked out a little bit more, maybe, because the ticket sales have gone through the roof into the Premier League. You know, we're back to roughly full capacity on season tickets and other bits and pieces. So it's not looking too bad. We are a little bit in the red at the moment financially because we're partway through a season. And of course, that will reset as the season ends and all that kind of usual FM stuff. But we're doing all right financially. But yeah, their setup is very, very good. There was no way they should have been in League One. I don't know what they were playing at, but they probably shouldn't be in the Premier League either.
Fantastic. I'd love to say it was similar at Morecambe when we've gone back-to-back promotions, but nope, nothing's really changed. We're still in League Two. I think we left it at season 4, and we were doing all right. And it's just the frustration of the inconsistency in form, and it's the mid-season form every single time that takes me down. So season 4, we signed in. Marcelo retired. I think we'd already covered this bit. Marcelo retired. Shinji Kagawa was in the reserves. He was just living in Morecambe.
Because of course he was.
Just living in Morecambe, playing on a school pitch every week because we had no use for him. So we went through the season. We started off really well. It was quite nice to see Daka's finally coming through. He came uninjured. He finished top goal scorer over the season. Just had a look back. 12 of his goals were in 3 games. He scored 4 goals in 3 separate games. He was absolutely on fire for a period.
Wow.
We also found a club legend available on a free, Carlos Mendes Gomez. I think he moved on to Luton and moved to Wickham and a few other places. We picked it. He was at Bolton when we were there, and then he dropped off and he was a free, so we picked him up. So that was quite nice. He's quite a tricky winger. Still only like 28. I think he was like 3rd on my wingers list, actually, but he still serves a purpose. And to be fair, we can flip him if we need to and sell him on. But we hit January and we lost 5 out of the 6 games in January. And then the board turned on me and said, I kept on getting the old sack looms over Williams after next match. We won the next match 1-0 after going very defensive, just played on the counter and went from there. We flirted around the playoff positions, but ultimately didn't make it. So for the 3rd season in a row, we had a board meeting at the end of the season. But they always just go really well. I was like, I'll try again next season. Okay, yeah, we have full faith in you. We'll back you. And then they came in again and they went, we don't like this left back you've got. If you keep playing him, we're going to sack you. And I was like, well, it's all right. I've already fallen out with him. He's on 4.2 in training. Like, he was getting 4.2 in training. He was that angry with me. So I was like, right, we need to move him on. We'd picked up a left back on loan from Southampton called Thierry Small, and he was really good at putting a cross in, assisted a lot of Daka's goals, etc. But like I said, we just couldn't get that consistency. And we ended up finishing the season I think finished 9th overall in the end, so it wasn't great. It was, I think, another 9th place finish. That seemed to be where we finished. And we came into the summer, and we didn't get any money. We didn't get much money, but we managed to sell on we bought 2 Sweet brothers from Arsenal. So there's James Sweet, who can play in midfield and right back. Very good at right back. I just couldn't get a consistent game out of him. It's the story of my FM. I can't get consistent games out of fullbacks. And there was Will Sweet as well, who's the centre back, who's actually started to pick up. He's 6'5", can head a few goals in, works really well for us. But James Sweet managed to sell to Linfield for $500,000, which was great. Got some money in the coffers. With that money, we just basically went out into the free market and we picked up a number of players. And some of them were unexpected. Shinsuke Nakatani, he used to play for Hiroshima. He was at Cardiff. We picked him up on a free as a backup centre-back, so that worked quite well for us. He was quite strong. He's just quite dependable. He's not going to play the ball amazingly well. So that was quite good. Gabriel Bianchieri, another Man United youngster, to go alongside Ethan Williams and Charlie McNeil, who we've already got. Ethan Williams is just going from strength to strength every season. He comes in as a backup advanced forward, but can also play out on the wings. The meme signing, but actually it's not a meme signing at all. We picked up Jediran Shaqiri on a free. He's 35. He's lost all of his physicals, but he's still got all the technicals and all the mentals that we need. So you
do find him.
Yeah, he literally slits as a deep line playmaker for us and just pings ball around. I sometimes move him into central midfield on attack because he can still hit a ball. It really frustrates me. You cannot put long shots on a deep line playmaker unless you remake a deep line playmaker in your own vision. So we brought him in, but he's been great on corners and free kicks. And then I think the most interesting one, Cade Gordon. He's a youngster at Liverpool. He's been tipped for big things. He got a really bad injury last season. He's come back recently. Pacey winger, can play up front as well. We got him on a free, and you actually look, the scouting report was decent Premier League, and I've no idea why he came along and signed for us, but he did. So we got him in. We tried again to get Thierry Small back in at left back. The left back that I fell out with, kept on falling out with, and I went to sell him for 50k, and he had demanded a 48k payoff. I was like, no.
Whoa.
I kept going back and just, I want this 48k payoff. I was like, no, I'm not giving you that payoff. Eventually, I settled on, somebody put 100k bid in for him. I was like, right, cool, you can go. And then he went, I want a 48k payoff. It's like, no, you can have a 30k payoff and like it. So he still made money on it. So Harry Boys left us. Yeah, it was just frustrating. They fell out with the players fell out with me because we didn't have any backup at keeper. And I signed a backup keeper a few seasons ago. He's not amazing, Lewis Thomas to Rojas. Rojas is still very streaky. He can play really well, but he can very regularly put up a 5.6 and let in 4 goals and really frustrate you. So I picked up Ted Curd, who is I think he's a Chelsea youngster. So I picked him up. And he's actually better than Rojas, but he's my backup keeper. And the players are still peed off with me. I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I've brought your backup keeper in. He's really capable. It's like, nope, we're not happy about this. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. We started the season, we're 10 games into the season, so very, very, very similar position to where you are, Kev. And we're third. We've lost one game. We just lost to MK Dons in the last game that we played. Dackers was injured to start the season off, so Dackers finished top goal scorer of the season before, but he's not actually attracting any interest, which is good. Perfectly fine for me.
Very helpful.
Yeah, he's still only 11 heading, but 18 jumping reach. I think to quote off this week's FM show, he just jumps in the air and wherever it hits him, it goes in. So kind of works for us. He's 6'7". Watching him line up alongside Jed and Shaqiri is hilarious to watch on the FM match engine because it is very much opposites. And fair play. I've got, I think I've mentioned, I've got Julian Ward as my director of football. And I allow him to make some signings. Sometimes I just go, no, I'm not having them. The amount of times he's bid for like a Ghanaian goalkeeper or something like that you know is not going to get a work permit, but he's determined to do it. And then they fail the work permit. It's like, well done, you've just wasted 40k that we don't have. But he has picked up. We went in for Thierry Small again to try and extend the loan. They went no. And then transfer deadline day, he goes, I've got Thierry Small in again. We're not paying any wages or anything for him. So we got him in again. He came in, first game, put in 2 crosses. Dackers got on the end of it and headed them in with his shoulder or whatever part of body part, but it went in. So this season might be the season when we're not as heavy favourites as we have been before. Wrexham have left the division. Wrexham who never beat us, which was really nice. Don't know how, but we somehow avoided it. And Wrexham had some really interesting players. Teams that have dropped in, I think it's very similar to where we are currently. This is 5 seasons in. You've had Northampton drop in there, but there's no real big standout teams in the league. I guess Notts County to a point. Leeds have sent us a couple of youngsters because we're their affiliate team. The only frustration is I cannot get any training facilities, any stadium upgrades, anything like that. We just can't upgrade it. The finances are very, very tight, so it's operating under this. And if we can just get a push, we're already out of the League Cup. We got Sheffield United, we went out with them. To be fair, it was a last-minute goal we went out to them by. But the weird thing is, when we sat in 9th or sat in mid-table and constantly threatening to lose my job, I got approached by West Brom, Fulham, Hibernian, and there was somebody stupidly big. It might have been Middlesbrough. They all approached me for job interviews. At first, I just went, nah, I'm just going to click through. I want to stay at Morecambe. Then I actually tried and I didn't get the jobs. Now I'm being rumoured I am the favourite for the West Brom job again. So I'll see where that goes. I don't think I'm going to move on, but I'll see where the temptation is. I might even just take the save on a fork, so I'll go off and take the West Brom job, but keep the Morecambe job. And just see those alternate universes, how they operate. But I think I've got the same as you. It's that I'm not in January yet. I'm not going to hit that mid-season inconsistency where we lose all the games, lose 8 in a row, lose 16 in a row as we have done in previous seasons. So I'm trying to figure out how to arrest it. And I think, as you said, you've got a 4-4-2 where it's just adapted. And I've started to do that a little bit more. So just keep the same shape, but you a bit more pressing, a bit more dropping off, a bit more just adjusting it according to the opposition that you're playing, and then you can adjust it easily in game. But that inconsistency with defenders, particularly fullbacks, is really, really frustrating me, and I don't understand sometimes on it as well. Particularly on the Wolves save, because the fullbacks that I've bought in there, I've spent a lot of money on. It's just not really worked out. I don't know if is it central defenders? Is it fullbacks? Is it where's?
For me, it's slightly more central defenders in terms of losing possession and stuff, but they do a reasonably good job at times in terms of their actual defensive duties. I mean, I switched to the three at the back for a little while in FM24, partly because of this thing that fullbacks were seemingly not as potent and not as capable. And so I wanted to check out what happens if you go proper wing back positions instead and switch to the three at the back. Ultimately, it still just didn't quite work for me. I couldn't quite get it to be consistent enough over a long period of time. It worked for a while and then it just diminished somewhat. I don't quite know what I did to it. So I reverted back to the four at the back. But yeah, fullbacks are weird, aren't they? They just are. There's a couple that I've had that have been really good, but they've been definitely on the attacking side of fullbacks in terms of how their setup is. The actual defensive capabilities are not overly strong at times. It is a very weird one. But yeah, mostly in terms of the issues that I've had, it's been my central defenders trying to pass out and just giving it away. It's weird.
Yeah, and I've got my youth intakes have all been absolutely terrible. I think I said this week it's just like when people get youth intakes, so the noise that comes with it. I said yes, mine's a toilet flushing every single season, like for both Wolves and Morecambe, because we never get a decent one. We do have this youngster Kieran Clark who's come through, and I've just compared him to Marcus Dackers and his little, can't remember what they're called, the graph that's in the middle.
Yeah.
That is almost a carbon copy of Dackers, except it's just slightly below on a couple of the attributes.
Okay.
So it might be worth seeing how good he is. He's 6'5". Dackers is 6'7". He's got 14 heading compared to Dackers' 11, but jumping reach is about the same. So could be interesting to see where we develop him on. Maybe move him on.
And how old is the young guy?
He's 18, and Dackers is now 24. And Dackers actually made it into the icons list. So he's now ticked off on the objectives list, which we are. I think we're 40 objectives ticked off. So we're a third of the way there with the objectives.
That's fantastic.
I think a lot depends on all the various promotions and stuff that we hope to get, but we're still not there. I mean, I think Callum's still only on one promotion so far. So, and that now you've done 2, so you're showing off. Is that 3 now? Actually, no, it's 3.
Yes, it is. I got Colwyn Bay up from first, second tier to first tier in Wales as well. But yeah, I mean, promotions have been interesting. Staying relevant in a top flight has not been my bag so far. Colwyn Bay didn't go very well when I got there. Stoke may not go great now, but yeah, we get there, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so 5th season, see how we go. Hopefully we'll get some streams some evenings this week in to play it along. I'm enjoying it again, which is important. I think
that's fantastic.
FM as well, yeah. I think there was a bit of a lull, which I think everyone's had.
Yeah.
Data updates have not affected me because I've played with the same 2 saves. I mean, once in FM23 anyway.
Yep.
But I think I think watching some of the other content that's out there has been inspiring, shall we say? It's quite nice to see. I think there's been some excellent creators and various extra things. Obviously, Zealand is always a standout, but I think seeing some of the stuff other people are producing is really interesting as well. I think one that we chatted about is somebody moving from the EAFC space into FM.
Yeah, indeed.
Brand new. He's called Run the Foot Market, which is obviously the ultimate team side of things. He's an American, but he started playing FM. He watched a reaction video. He reacted to a reaction video of a reaction to Zealand. So Zealand was watching somebody play. Somebody reacted to that, and then he watched that reaction video, and that inspired him to go and play FM. So if that's how it goes, and it was it's really refreshing. We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah.
But watching his streams, he has no clue what he's doing. Like, no clue whatsoever. When he's in games, like, how do I stop? How do I make a sub? And it's just like, everyone's like, because his chat's got 8,000 people in, it's just spam. So you just about make out the instructions that he wants to do.
Yeah.
But he gets excited. He's not bothered about graphics, which is quite interesting with FM25 coming soon as well, with the improved graphic system.
Yep.
But it's it's very nice and almost a little bit wholesome to watch somebody brand new to the game experience it and then finally get to grips, and then the addiction's going to set in.
Yep, totally. It's interesting, isn't it? I would say 2 or 3 times a week, somebody comes into my chat and says, how do I get to grips with this game, or how do I improve a tactic that I can't get to work because I'm new, or whatever it might be. It's a really interesting situation to watch people go through. And then, 3 months later, if they've stuck around, and you then get them in the chat helping other people because they've been completely addicted to it and they've sort of figured it out, etc. But to find somebody doing that on stream or on YouTube videos or whatever is a really interesting sort of glimpse into that sort of world occasionally. I like it a lot, and as you say, it's early days for him, but he's got a strong community, obviously based around what he's done previously. So let's hope that he sticks it out. But yeah, it's an interesting place right now. There's a lot of people doing a lot of other things that are not Football Manager, and there are a lot of people suggesting that they're struggling with those mid-season slumps and not trying to figure it out. But there is a section of the community that are still just enjoying this game. It's still a really good version of the FM franchise, I think. 24, there's bits and pieces in there that I would change, but not too much really. And it's still really fun to play. And I like that a lot. So yeah, fair play to him. I hope he really enjoys moving forward in that, and see what happens next with him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's people have had these slumps, almost a mid-season slump with FM24 completely. I mean, I think, was there somebody in your chat who came in during the network save and asked for advice with me and Richard? We were just very, very unhelpful.
Yes,
yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember what the question was.
Just give up. What's the point? Yeah, there's no point doing it. Yes.
It was one of those sort of, I'm struggling with my tactical setup or something, and the blah, blah, blah. How do I improve that? And you basically both just went, just don't bother.
Yeah.
And I'm going, don't say that. I need people to stick around my stream.
Yeah, exactly. We need people to listen to the podcast as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that nicely transitions into the network save itself. I'll let you start with your journey in this season 5 of the network save. You started at Fulham.
I did.
And you're not there anymore, are you?
I'm not. No, it's an interesting one. It's something that's been on my mind a little bit for the last season and a half in game, a little bit, that there would come a point where I might need to transition away from them. It feels like to me that I had taken them kind of as far as I could, in the sense that I think I'd cobbled together a really strong squad in a lot of ways, and we'd got back-to-back Champions League by the skin of our teeth a little bit here and there, but we managed it and got into the Champions League, which is amazing. But the finances were never totally settled, and the amount of fans through the turnstiles and other bits and pieces just doesn't help you propel your club forward particularly. So I always knew there might come a moment where maybe it had reached its point, and I was just keeping an eye on the job market, just because that's what we do. Occasionally we dip in and see who's insecure and have a laugh that it's mostly Pep and he manages to survive somehow, although he recently hasn't, has he? No. So he's now gone in the save. But yeah, I was looking around, and the Tottenham job came up. The Tottenham job at the time, they were sitting in mid-table. My Fulham side was sitting in about 8th or something, outside of the European spots. And I thought, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to get there this year. It felt like the year where it just started to diminish a little bit at Fulham. So I thought, well, I'll apply for it, and they'll either offer it me or they won't. And if they do or they don't, I can then decide what I want to do. So I applied for it, and then they did offer it to me. So I had a decision to make, and it was a weird decision in the sense that I've got this kind of well thought out, structured squad that was playing a style that I wanted them to play. They were of a pretty good age. There was consistent backup throughout the squad. And then you look at Tottenham, and they were Tottenham. It was just a bit weird. They were unbalanced. They'd got some aging players. Remember, we started this in FM23, so this is not the most recent version of the game, but we've now ported it over to 24, obviously, to carry on playing it. So the likes of Harry Kane and Son were still at Tottenham at the age of 34 or whatever they were. and had lost all the impact that they were having up front, seemingly. Whoever it was that was playing up front for me for that last part of the season just kind of really didn't do much, any of them. And there was just some inconsistencies around the squad and slight imbalances in terms of not enough backup in particularly the central defensive area was a little bit threadbare, etc. So it was definitely a thing of I looked around and thought, do I really want to do this? But I do think that if I can get through the next season with them, whatever that looks like, I think moving forward from that point, they are in a decent financial position. I think the size of club will help me to move forward, and I think I can get better eventually with this lot than I was getting at Fulham. The problem is, I'd have liked to have gone and raided half of my Fulham setup, and they're all too expensive for me to buy. And that shows you something about where the balance lies, etc., and all that kind of stuff within the Tottenham setup as well. So I've had I think it was about a 12th place finish in the end or something. I can't exactly remember, to be honest. I haven't got it quite in front of me, but it was somewhere around there. It just it tailed off in the last part of the season. I had quite a tricky run in with a bunch of very hard teams to play in the last section of the league with Tottenham. And so we finished just below mid-table, I think, sort of in that sort of midpoint in the lower half of the table. And that is something that if it were to happen again this coming season, then I would count that as a complete disaster, if I'm totally honest, because I still think there's a lot to offer from this particular group of players that I've now added to and tried to create a squad. It's one of those weird things. I had a Fulham squad that were built to play my style. I now want to play the style. I'm having to bring potentially slightly lesser players in to start playing the style. And then over the next couple of transfer windows, improve those players a little bit and move them back up a bit. So that's kind of where I am. It's going to play my style. I don't think it's going to be a complete form of it. I'd like a little bit more finances just to help us. But ultimately, there was a lot of work to do. I had a lot of players to get out, and we've done most of it. I'm just waiting for the game to tick through a couple of weeks from now, where those sort of moments happen, where your squad then they leave and you're left with what you've got. I think we'll be okay. I think in the next couple of seasons, if I'm up in the Champions League, I will count that as a big success. And if I'm in the lower half of the table, then that's an absolute disaster. But this is Tottenham, isn't it? So who's got a Scooby-Doo as to exactly which one of those we'll get? Because I haven't at this point. But it's been a real fun season. It was an interesting season making those choices. The network nights themselves are a highlight of my week because they're insane in so many ways. You have to come and check them out with us at some point if you haven't already. But yeah, we've had some success. So tell us about your success, Jeb.
I beat you twice.
I mean, that's good.
When you were at Fulham, yeah. We had a semi-finals in the League Cup where it was myself, Kev, and Richard all got through to the semis, and I think Rich get Man City in the other semi?
He did.
Yep. So me and Kev played each other twice.
That was in my Fulham days, wasn't it?
In your Fulham days, I won both of them, and then we played each other in the league immediately afterwards, and you beat me. So it's the standard way it goes.
Yep.
That's probably about it for my success. We got to a cup final, and then we played Rich, and then Rich disconnected halfway through the cup final, and then he won on penalties.
Cheated,
so
basically.
It's basically got a big asterisk to it. So Rich is the first official trophy winner after the Why Callum Had a Baby Cup victory of my own a couple of seasons ago.
Yep.
We just frustrating. Like, we are in so much debt. I think that's the main issue that we have now. We are now 260 million in debt. So the training facilities, the stadium, the youth facility, just deteriorating. I think we're down to a great or a good, so it's not that high in terms of where we are with the actual facility. So that we're suffering a little bit that way. Fullbacks, spoke about them at Morecambe. Now I'm speaking about them here. We spent a lot of money on fullbacks in this season. We bought in Tyreek Mitchell the season before for 39 million, and then we splashed for a record transfer for 57 million Tomiyasu from Arsenal to play at right back. And actually, that was a reasonably good pickup. He had an all right season for us. We also picked up Gonçalves, who is not Pedro, but Miguel. He was the number 1 in the next gen list. He's phenomenal. I'm just looking at his attributes right now. 17 acceleration, 18 agility, 17 balance, 16 finishing, 16 first touch, 17 technique. Composure's only at 13, but it doesn't matter too much. His first season, 15 starts, got 13 goals, 3 assists. A lot of time off the bench as well, but he was really good for us. A bit inconsistent, but he's 18, so I'm not really too fussed about that. Other players we picked up Gravenberch, who was at Bayern Munich for 6 million. We also picked up Sigrist as a backup keeper. He didn't really play that much. Nick Pope came in instead because he was English, and I think that was one of the issues that we did have is we didn't have enough trained in the UK players. We only had 8.
It is a big thing, isn't it?
And we kept on trying to push on it, and to the point where we were sat in March looking at it, and we weren't doing great. And I looked in the free transfer market and was like, what's he doing there? I'll buy him. he'll help with the registration. Then I forgot to register him. Cole Palmer we picked up on a free transfer, and they just played in the reserves occasionally. Didn't play that much.
That was one of my favourite moments. Yeah. Figuring out that you couldn't register him.
Couldn't register him. He's very average, I would say, Cole Palmer. 13s, 14s, 15s across the board. He's lacking a little bit of strength. He's not the Cole Palmer that we know this season. I imagine the Cole Palmer in the game isn't as good as he is at the moment. But we'll see where he goes. He's definitely going to help with the coefficients and pick up those type of players. We're still, like I said, this big debt. Every single midfielder that we own is wanted. We signed Manu Kone. We fell out with. He didn't want to play for us anymore, so we loaned him to Atletico Madrid for the season. They paid me 150k a month and paid all his wages. Great, fantastic. While he was there, he signed a new contract with us. Had no quibbles about it. Removed the release clause, so we've got him signed up. So we're ready to welcome him back with open arms. Mateus Nunes, Reader, and Kefi Turam. Kefi Turam's got a transfer request in, has had it in all season. They're all probably going to move on because I just cannot keep hold of them and I need to make some money somewhere. So I think that's where that one will go. In terms of the league form, we did really well, and then we hit January. We did all right. Lost a couple of games. Lost to Rich 3-1. Lost a game to you, as we said, 2-1.
Yeah,
and then we marched through, had a big 5-1 win against Watford. We're quite high up in the table. I'll actually bring up that graphic that I always forget to bring up so I can see where your past positions were. There you go, that's much better. So we were flying quite high in the table. We were near the top, and then we just dropped off again. We lost all the games in February. All 4 of them we lost. We lost to Newcastle 4-1, then to Villa 3-0, then to Leeds 1-0, who always seem to beat us. Then Tottenham, I think it was before your time, we lost 2-0 as well. And then we had the matter of the League Cup final coming up, but we played West Brom, which thought, oh, there you go, that'll G everyone up. Yep. West Brom, bottom of the table, lost 1-0. And I think that was an own goal that we gave away on that one as well. So just to make it even worse. And then we got to the cup final, we did okay there, but we just couldn't put it in when we wanted to. We dominated the cup final actually, and it was a shame that we lost it. So yeah, and then we worked our way through the season. We played City, beat them. We beat City both times this season, and we ended up finishing 6th, which would have been enough for a Champions League place, except Chelsea decided to throw away the Europa League final, which was really annoying. And they finished 5th, and they got the coefficient spot in the Champions League, so we didn't get that. Oh, that's a shame. But we've had a look in the transfer market. Left back Tyreek Mitchell was just so inconsistent for the money that we paid for him. He started off well and then just turned inconsistent quite quickly. He's had a couple of bids for him as well, which I need to have a look at when we do go back into the game. But we have brought in Kieran Tierney, so we brought in another Arsenal fullback, which could be a nice little pickup for us. We're also going to sign Vitinha, the Portuguese striker, who's I think was the highest goal scorer in the Europa League this season. We picked him up on a free, so that could work out really nice for us. But we also have a ridiculously big squad, which I need to review and maybe get rid of some of these players have just hung around a little bit too long. Players that haven't developed. So we've got Diamande, the defender. He's not been great. Nelson Viper, it's 22 now. I think you were interested in him for a little bit. We've got Patrick Schick as well. He's 31. There's just players like that maybe just now need to move on, and we need to start again with some positions. Neymar will be one of those players that moves on. He's 35. He's on 300 grand a week. He had an all right season.
He's done all right for you, though,
he had
hasn't
6
he?
goals, 7 assists in 20 games. He was good, and he comes up big where we want him to come up big. His physicals are deteriorating, and he's on 300 grand a week, which I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
like it's a lot of money. It was. I wouldn't say it was a panic buy. He had a really good season. He's definitely lethal on corners for us every single time, and then he comes up with big goals in big games. Curtis Jones had a really good season. He was finished as top assists, but
he was amazing for a lot of it.
Top assists. He had 13 assists on the 1st of January, and he was all ready for a record. For the rest of the season, he got 1 more assist. Just like, don't know why it dropped off. But yeah, there was an argument a few seasons ago. I picked up Curtis Jones instead of signing Richie's James Maddison. So I picked up Curtis Jones for half the price.
Yep.
And he's starting to develop. He's still 26, so he's still got a bit more development to go. But as a central midfielder, particularly in an advanced playmaker role, he was really lethal for us. And like we said, he picked up all those assists. So I don't know where that one goes. As for Rich...
well, just before we do Rich, I've remembered one thing that I didn't mention in my roundup. Of course, having left Fulham and moved on, they were still in the Champions League. Fulham were. I left them with a round of the Champions League to play that I was assuming they'd go out on. They didn't go out, Jeb. They carried on. They got through to the semi-finals, and they got through to play with Shakhtar Donetsk in the semi-finals, wasn't it?
Yep.
And for a moment, I was absolutely convinced that my Fulham side were going to win the Champions League without me, and that would have been quite something. In the end, they didn't, and I'm kind of a little bit glad, sort of, about that. But it would have been quite some story in the end. But yeah, I mean, that's how good we'd got them. I just didn't think I could do it again necessarily. So that's why we moved. But yeah, it was a weird one. And the other thing that I will tell you, just because you were talking about your wage structure and where that fits, I had Harry Kane and Son and Richarlison and one of the most expensive players in the world in Jeremy Pino on my right-hand side. And none of those were my top earner. It was Destiny Udogie and my left fullback, who was on like 300k a week. So he's moved on just to rebalance my finances a little bit. It was a bit of a madness. But...
And you went to sell Harry... Well, you're trying to sell Harry Kane, because I approached again and he asked me for 450k a week. I was like, no, you're all right, Harry. See you later. We've got plenty of strikers. Didn't actually really need you properly. Kind of confirmed that.
But yeah, anyway.
Just looking through that Shakhtar side of things, I'm just having a look through. They went in the path to the Champions League, Champions Pathway path to the path. I don't know what this means. Yeah, exactly. So they had Astana, who they scraped through in the path, and then they beat Galatasaray. In the league phase, they didn't actually do that well, so they had to go into the playoff, where they played West Ham. How did West Ham get in the Champions League knockouts, league phase anyway, but in the playoffs? So they beat West Ham. Then they beat Rich's Man United 1-0 over 2 legs. I remember how frustrated Rich was with that. Then they beat Liverpool, then they beat Fulham, and then they played Barcelona in the final, and they scored a last-minute, 93rd minute winner against Barcelona to win the Champions League, which is just madness. Absolute madness.
Amazing.
Yeah, for a Ukrainian side to win it. All the various things that's there, but yes. But I think Rich is already raiding them for Mudrick by the sounds of things. Because yes, so Rich, yes.
Yeah.
He got knocked out of the Champions League by Shakhtar, which is quite embarrassing, but everything else, I'm just having a look at his squad currently, it is a bit crazy, isn't it?
It's a madness. What's he done?
He's got three world-class keepers effectively in Seaman. Junkie Makeda, who picked up as a Japanese, and then he's got Nubel as well as a backup. He picked up Barry Bastoni as a centre-back just to help alongside Tamori and Okalai and Sven Botman and various other people. Rashford's still there, which I'm surprised at. Sancho's still there. Sancho's one of his best players. He picked up Nona Madueke a couple of seasons ago for about £200 billion. It was something ridiculous.
He's decent though, isn't he?
Yeah. Harvey Barnes, your favourite.
Of course.
He's in there as well. But yeah, so Rich just slowly crept up the division. And I know it's like he wasn't winning like regularly, but he just seemed to get the rub of the green actually with some of the fixtures that happened. And it took him until the 37th game, the 38th game of the season to go top of the league. And he won the league, which is very frustrating.
Yep.
He won the league on goal difference as well, ahead of Arsenal. Liverpool kind of threw it away in the last few games. 25 wins, 7 draws, 6 losses, and Liverpool had 23 wins, 11 draws. That's probably where all those draws kind of hampered them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 82 points. He wins the league. He's won the League Cup. He tried to claim it as a double, but the League and Premier League isn't a double. Unless Liverpool win that this season, then it is a double. Yes. But, yeah. He's the first one to win the league, and
he is.
He's been given, what is it, 250 million or something stupid in his transfer budget already? Yeah. So
it's one of the key reasons why I moved was because I could feel that if I didn't, being at Fulham and having the gates that we had and all that kind of stuff, I would just get left behind by him at some point if I didn't. So it was one of the key reasons to move. He made the jump first to one of those sort of big clubs, and I kind of felt like I had to. Do you feel the same for you moving forward because of the financial setup at Wolves now and stuff? Do you feel like there's a need to do that at some point?
I don't think there's a need to do it. So I don't think that's the issue, because we talked about Pep Guardiola leaving Man City, and I've had 4th, 5th, 6th. I think I finished 7th once. I've had quite good finishes with Wolves. We got quite far in the Champions League when we were in the Champions League, got to the quarterfinals, got knocked out by Barcelona. So you think I'd have a reasonably good manager's reputation. So I applied for the Man City job and got the memo. Man City board have informed you that your application to fill the vacant manager's roles has been unsuccessful. Didn't even make it to the interview phase.
Yep. That happened to me at Man United before they even approached for Rich at one point. And a couple of others, I believe. So, yeah, I get that totally.
Yeah, this is mainly as a result to your complete lack of experience in winning league titles.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Thanks. Cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't think there's any big jobs that you go for. I mean, I don't think the Liverpool job's going to come up anytime soon. The Chelsea job's been and gone so many times, and to be fair, that Chelsea squad is actually quite settled, which we're laughing about.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got many of the same players that they started with. I mean,
they've just changed manager 17 times or whatever it is, but
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting to know. I was just looking at Manchester United. Rich is now in the favoured personnel.
Is he?
Yeah, he's made it in. Yeah, so
lovely.
See how that works out. Will he make it past favoured personnel? See previous episodes where we talked about favoured personnel before. Yes. But
if Harvey Barnes makes it in, I'm going to be furious.
Your hatred for Harvey Barnes. But yeah, the network save has been a highlight definitely this season and last season. I think I brought some AI voices along. We brought an AI version.
One or two.
Yeah, we brought an AI version of Callum along this week, and
that's scary at times.
Yeah, we've no idea what happened, but who knew that Callum was in the Screamo band? But there we are. Right. Check back and listen.
Who knew? On that note.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got a podcast there. A little bit shorter than normal.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's cool.
It's a full update of where we are with our saves and the network save. Network save, hopefully back tomorrow night, maybe later in the week, just dependent on how Rich is getting on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, what's he say? It feels like a podcast.
That feels like a podcast, and I usually agree, and on this occasion I will. Absolutely. Fantastic. It does.
Yeah, and I'm glad we didn't mention anything to do with Liverpool this week, so that's good. Right, anyway.
If we'd have done that, we'd have had to talk United as well, and that's even more painful, so, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is it, 120 shots in 5 games or something like that you conceded?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going great.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yes, exactly. Only Darwin Núñez or Gakpo could hit the top. Right, anyway, no, we're not going into it. Right. Kev, where can we find you doing that wonderful Stoke content this week?
Because of Man United in a padded cell, rocking back and forth half the time. But in terms of streaming, I will be found at the United City FM on Twitch this week, and we're going to be seeing whether we can hold our own in the Premier League. We've got 2 big games to come, and then we've got some slightly easier ones to come. And I'm really, really hopeful that we can get some points there because I want 17th. Come and join me and see if we can manage it. What about you, Jeb? What are you up to?
What's an ambitious target?
I know, right?
Twitch.tv/Jebaroo. Hopefully, we'll get on the stream this week to carry on our Morecambe save. I'm away next weekend, unfortunately, so I won't be on the pod. Also, twitch.tv/YCallum and also youtube.com/YCallum and also twitter.com/YCallum because he decided to play a couple of games offline this week. He said, we're going to play around with it because I need to progress my way through the season. And during that offline bit, he had a 5-7 game where he won. And you're just like, why couldn't have this been on stream or on record? But yeah, so
amazing.
And also twitch.tv/RichOwensFM for Rich's content when he's back on with his Barcelona save on the Mad Scientist database.
He's still got to finish that, I think, before going back to his former glory stuff. So yeah.
Fantastic. And awesome. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to click like and subscribe and all those wonderful things. Tell a friend about the FMT pod because we'll always be here in some form or another. So we will see you next time on Football Manager Therapy. Take care. Bye.
Bye.